haven't heard of this sort of story before, especially in the legal world, but the Army right now says they're going to look into a claim that a civilian analyst working for them was conducting intel officer duties, law enforcement duties on U.S. soil. And the interesting part of the story is there's a claim that they were targeting American citizens. There's an anti-war protest group. They're based in the state of Washington, and they say that they discovered a spy in their ranks, then did a little counter-intel of their own. And Dan Springer is live in the Port of Tacoma, site of some of the anti-war protests in question. Dan, it's a little confusing, but how did it all go down, and does it look like the Army might have done something wrong?
Yeah, you know, legal experts believe, at least from the preliminary information, that the military has a problem on its hands. Let's talk about this fascinating tale that really begins about 2 years ago, Jamie, when a guy presents himself to an anti-war group called the Port Militarization Resistance Group here in Olympia, Washington. A guy named, says his name is John Jacob. He presents himself as an anti-war activist, wants to end the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. He joins the group, actually gets a lot of trust within that group, and becomes the administrator of their email list. Well, fast forward 2 years, the group says they've outed this guy through Facebook and through some Freedom of Information emails they picked off, that he's really John Towery, a civilian employee at Fort Lewis, Washington, and his job is to protect troops. And so they say that all the while he was inside their group, he was sending back information to local police officers and to Fort Lewis about their activities, and that, they say, is illegal.
So if he had some information, or the Army had information, that the troops there could be in danger, that this group was going to do something to harm them, they're not allowed to collect intelligence in this way? What's their alternative?
For 130 years, the law of the land has been posse comitatus, which basically says that the U.S. military cannot act as local law enforcement agencies. And so there have been exceptions carved out. Most recently, exceptions carved out if nuclear weapons were involved or thought to be involved, or if the local group was thought to be in cahoots with terrorists or foreign enemies. And so basically Fort Lewis would have to come up with the evidence that they thought that this local peace activist group was somehow tied to Hamas or to Al-Qaeda, and that they had reason to infiltrate the group. If they can't come up with that, legal experts say they got a real issue of violating First Amendment rights and right to association.
Dan, at this point we don't know that information, but what's the next stage for this? Does it go to trial? Who defends the Army in this? And what do you think we'll learn, or will some of this information be classified?
Well, a lot of it already is classified. We filed a Freedom of Information request, and we got emails that had a lot of information redacted, emails from John Towery to local law enforcement. Basically, the Fort Lewis is saying that they acknowledge John Towery does work for them. He does work in this intel gathering position and force protection. They are not justifying what he did. They're saying that they have launched an internal investigation. Outside groups say they will support the military because they believe, as many people do, that this is an issue surrounding protection of troops. And so what's going to happen is PMR is going to file this lawsuit. They're going to drag the military into court and see if they can't get some sort of a settlement out of them, or have the military have to pay for violating rights.
Well, it's certainly a case worth following. Dan Springer, great reporting. Thank you so much.
And